When people imagine job disruption, they picture something dramatic. Factories closing, offices shutting down, entire roles disappearing overnight. That's how change used to look. But that's not how it's happening anymore. Today, the biggest changes to work aren't loud. They aren't announced. And they aren't obvious at first. They are happening quietly, often without people realizing what has changed. Artificial intelligence is usually described as a future problem, something that will arrive suddenly, something that will force people to react. But in reality, AI has already entered the workplace, not as a replacement for people, not as machines taking over jobs, but as an invisible layer beneath everyday work. It doesn't show up with warnings. It doesn't demand attention. It simply changes how work gets done. Across many industries, small tasks are being automated. Scheduling meetings, sorting emails, writing summaries, reviewing information. None of these tasks define a job on their own. So when one disappears, nothing feels wrong. But when several disappear at the same time, the role itself quietly begins to change. And because the change is gradual, most people don't notice it happening. This is why the shift feels invisible. Job titles stay the same. Teams remain intact. People still show up every day. From the outside, everything looks normal. But inside the role, expectations start to shift. People are asked to handle more, to move faster, to manage complexity instead of execution. Work doesn't disappear. It becomes heavier. What makes this transition difficult is that it isn't explained. There's no announcement saying the job is changing. There's no roadmap showing what comes next. People are simply expected to adapt. And when they struggle, it feels personal, even though the system itself has changed. From a company's perspective, this shift makes sense. AI doesn't need breaks. It doesn't ask for raises. It doesn't get tired. And it scales instantly. So instead of replacing workers outright, organizations quietly redesign workflows around software. Automation becomes embedded. Processes become more efficient. Headcount often stays the same, at least on paper. Over time, something subtle happens. People are no longer valued for doing tasks. They are valued for overseeing systems, monitoring, interpreting, making decisions when automation reaches its limits. The job still exists, but the nature of contribution has shifted. To understand this better, think about a common workplace role. In the past, information had to be gathered manually. Reports had to be checked. Summaries had to be written by hand. Today, much of that work is automated. Software gathers the data. AI tools generate drafts. Dashboards update in real time. The employee is still there, but their role has changed. They are no longer doing the work. They are supervising the output. At first, this feels like an improvement. Work becomes faster. Errors decrease. Productivity rises. But something else happens at the same time. The margin for error shrinks. People are expected to respond instantly, to understand systems they didn't design, to take responsibility for outputs they didn't create. The job feels lighter on the surface, but heavier underneath. This is where uncertainty begins to grow. People start asking quiet questions. What part of my job actually matters now? What skills am I being judged on? And how are decisions really being made? These questions rarely get clear answers. They just linger in the background, while expectations continue to rise. The first people to notice these changes are rarely executives. They are assistants, analysts, coordinators, support roles, jobs built around organization, memory, and speed. These were once valuable human skills. Today, many of them are automated. And when that happens, roles become less defined. This doesn't mean work is disappearing. It means work is being reorganized. Some tasks vanish completely. Others become abstract. New responsibilities appear without clear boundaries. People are asked to think more, decide more, and explain more, even when they were never trained to do so. This kind of change isn't new. In the past, technology replaced physical labor. Machines increased output. Tools made production faster. But today's shift is different. AI doesn't replace strength. It replaces judgment, speed, coordination, qualities once considered uniquely human. This is why the change feels personal. When a machine replaces physical effort, the adjustment is clear. When a system replaces mental tasks, the impact is harder to accept. People aren't just adapting to new tools. They are redefining their value. This is why waiting for disruption to look dramatic is a mistake. The most important changes are subtle. They don't arrive as layoffs. They arrive as new metrics, new expectations, new performance standards, quiet redesigns of everyday work. Over time, this creates pressure. People feel less certain, less stable, more exposed. Work feels fragile, not because jobs are gone, but because roles are constantly shifting, without explanation, without guidance. So the real question isn't whether AI will take jobs. The real question is deeper. Which parts of work still need a human? Which parts require judgment, context, and understanding? And which parts no longer do? Understanding this difference is becoming essential, not to compete with machines, but to work alongside them, not to chase every new tool, but to understand where human value still exists. This isn't a collapse, it's a transition. And the people who recognize it early won't just adapt faster. They'll understand what truly matters in the future of work.